Hello, welcome to another episode of Beyond Chronic Disease. My name's Wendy Gathercole and I'm the host of the show, and I have here with me today Deborah Husbands. And Deb was on the show on the 1st of August speaking about Aurasoma and all the beautiful qualities of the colours and the scents, and I just absolutely loved it so much that I've got her back to talk about the Bema Light Pens. Welcome, Deb.
Thank you so much, Wendy. And as I said earlier, I really appreciate you giving us an opportunity to talk about colour and light to the world out there, because I'm a fan.
And so am I.
Preaching a little bit to the choir then, aren't I?
But I haven't, sorry, Deb, I haven't heard of the Bema Light Pen. I've done a little bit of reading on it, and I just love colour in general, and of course it's related to colour. So you go for it. You tell us all about Bema Light Pen.
Beautiful. Thank you. I absolutely love this one. And I got involved in the Bema Light Pen. So this is the pen, and it's shining itself through that beautiful magenta ray. I'm not going to stick it right in your eyeball. But, you know, there's a lot of schools of thought that talk about light carrying parcels of information directly into the energetic field that we're existing in, our quantum field. And it's becoming a little bit more bombarded by computers and false light and, you know, all of the electromagnetics, etc., that are around. So giving us an opportunity to actually tune into each of the colors as they're shone on different parts of the body. That's a little turquoise one. Just gives us a beautiful opportunity to observe what goes on in the body as we allow the light to be shone upon certain areas of the body. So Andy and I did study with a lady called Shanto for many, many years. I think I did 7 or 8 years of study with Shanto and did, numerous courses. And her philosophy is connecting to the acupuncture philosophy. So through that training, we learned 40 different acupuncture treatments that we do with color and light. So they could be things like changing fear into courage, or changing anger into assertiveness, or transitioning through grief, or going through any of those lifestyle things that go on. We could help with a little bit of what's stuck in the back of the neck or what's stuck in your lower back, and actually go through treatments based on the colors that you have chosen. And that sort of diagnoses what area of the body you would like to work on. And as a trained practitioner, we then work on offering 2 or 3 different treatments that then sort of last for an hour or so, that give your body an experience of having light shone directly into it. More recently, we've also become involved with Robert and Gallo, who are across in Italy, and they work with the Bema Light Pen in a different way. They work with the Mayan calendar, and connecting us into the rhythm of life that is basically not restricted by our current time frames. You know, the Gregorian calendar and time as we know it has been switched up and changed. And so the Mayan calendar is something that we're actually all a part of, the 13 moons. And so this system moves a little bit more into the emotional connection to light and its intuition. So both are very valid. And of course, like light and color, we don't really know who needs what treatment, or who would like what treatment, or who's going to resonate with what particular treatment, until someone comes along and has that discussion in front of the bottles. And we then get to know where their consciousness lies, whether they're caught in the physical world and they actually really need support in transforming something that's, you know, this would be easy to know. Like, my mother died a couple of years ago, and certainly what I needed was support in that grieving process when it became overwhelming. Certainly more recently, I've had family members dealing with stress and anxiety and, you know, the pain of what's going on. So we're working a lot with anxieties or anger, and being able to create new boundaries. So the other really beautiful thing I love about these are, look at just how mesmerizing it is. So if you're working with children who wish to interrupt the patterns of whatever's going on, they're having a tanty or they're just not understanding something, they can choose the color that they're drawn to, and we can shine that on their physical being right now. And that gives them support in being able to articulate, even to themselves, the area of the body where that energy is stuck. And we begin to learn more about the different ways that light runs through the bodies. So on the one hand, we've got, let's work on a problem you may have known has existed for 20, 30, 40 years, if you know you're in our vintage. And it's like, damn it, that pattern always keeps happening. Well, the light could then help shine the light onto a different perspective of some of the deeper, more intimate secrets that you have within your own body about what you perceived about certain things. And just having that gentle space of those resonant frequencies, because each color has its own frequency, it has its own wavelength, it has its own pattern. And so too is that reflected in our body, even in our brain. So where those light forms move in a certain pattern across our brain, you know, using a different light form can help us to access different areas of the brain. And so by bringing energy into an area we wish to support, we can nourish the body, nurture the body, but we can also release part of what's perhaps blocking the body. And it's helping those, particularly, you know, with children. I particularly love using the method of the meridian lines. There are 6 meridian lines on each arm and on each leg, and they're all related to a different color. So in just distracting someone from where they're at, feeling that pain intensely or that emotion intensely, they're able to then shift a little bit of that energy through their body. So, like, personally, I think every family should have a Bema Light Pen set. And I don't know if you can see, but
yeah. Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
this particular one I like, you can either get one for 7 of the chakras, or you can get one for all 14 of the colors.
Wow.
And of course, for me, I like the options. So they're about $860. But once you've got a set, you can then start to use it intuitively or learn from either one of these treating places. But even for yourself, meditation at night with a Bema Light pen in the dark, where you can actually shine it directly on yourself, just gives you another little added level of connection to your consciousness. And if you can use that whilst using a bottle, so you can imagine using your own particular bottle that you're using, and depending on what light you shine on yourself where is going to give you the potential to unlock a different perspective of how that bottle is interacting within your own body. Like, the worst that can happen is that you're shining a light on yourself. The best that can happen is you happen to hit the right point at the right time with your consciousness, with your body's chemistry that suddenly responds with a little bubble of trauma being released or a little bubble of happiness being found, just by being able to interact in light in that particular way.
And
I'm a bit of a fan.
Can I ask, Deb, like, when all the different colors, so all the different colors, they would all have a different impact on individuals, like, you
Absolutely.
know. Yeah.
Because each color's got a different range of expression. So we're here with light in the visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Sound is the audible part, and there's also a sensual part that connects to. That spectrum is much bigger than we can perceive with our eyes or ears or nose. It's a bigger, broader spectrum. And there's parcels of information and energy in each one of those. Like, it's really mind-blowing, the quantum field. But the beautiful thing is that if you can learn how to interact with that, you don't feel powerless, you don't feel trapped, you don't feel so much like a victim. Can you still feel sad? Yes. Can you still feel angry? Yes. But you're not overwhelmed with that defining who you are. shining the light, using a bottle, having a scent can interrupt our mind patterns that set us in motion. And so when we're able to give our mind a different place to go, or a different set of frequencies to chew on, or a different possible potential, then we are succeeding in not locking ourselves into the life can only be one way. You know, that's how we initially unwrap some of the traumas, or some of the identification of the patterns that are going on within us. And then after that, we can move into a place a little bit more of mastery. As we become more aware of those things, we can then start to create the life that we wish to create, the experiences that we wish to create, because we're aware of how we react when presented with certain things. So how could you not want that for the rest of your life? You know, to be like, you know, and the difference now in my mentality when I come up against a challenge is, it used to be avoid challenge, avoid pain, avoid hurt, avoid. Now it's like, oh, exciting. What could I unlock here that means I'm no longer in control, or controlled by false belief systems or thoughts that can create my longer term harm? How can I use that energy wisely so that I can actually be feeling empowered to be finding joy even in suffering? You know, that's like really priceless. And that's actually part of that bottle you first used, the bottle 60. How can I find joy in the suffering that I find myself in, and be able to move into sharing that?
Yeah, and for the listeners that don't know what we're talking about there, that was the Aurasoma, and you'll know if you go back to the podcast on the 1st of August, Deb and I are chewing over all the facts and loveliness of Aurasoma. So with the Bema Light Pens, Deb, so obviously they're lit up. You put them into that little do they last forever?
Well, the vials will
Yes.
energetically hold their frequencies and their colors for a good long term. I haven't had any transform, but obviously the batteries will run out.
Oh, no, that's what I meant, the actual vials. Yeah, sorry.
The vials are
beautiful.
sealed. They're hand blown in Italy.
Ah, nice.
And it actually has the Aurasoma bottle inside.
Right.
So the only difference is, you know, as opposed to using a bottle that you're going to apply onto your physical body to have that interaction, this is much more about the light connection. So about bringing awareness and bringing understanding, but also, you know, as effective as acupuncture treatments are, in that some acupuncture treatments are brilliant for people, others don't sort of have that much of an effect. Definitely everyone can feel something about energy flowing and keeping it flowing. So using the pen in that way is helping to keep energy flowing rather than letting it get stuck.
Yes.
Because the stuck energy then becomes a dis-ease.
Yes.
And so if we can actually keep the ease flowing, if we have flow, we have options, we have life.
Yeah.
And so both systems of education support flow, but in different areas. So one's more physically orientated and connected to 3,000 or 5,000 years worth of acupuncture philosophy. But that's the beauty of color and light, is that it's also held a little bit by the perceiver. So if your motion in life is more about connecting to greater galactic bodies that will bring in greater knowledge, obviously then it would be easier for you to move down that Mayan calendar track and look at the systems that have been in place there for 4,000 or 5,000 years or longer, 15. So it's basically whichever way you feel like you need to connect to understand what's going on in you right now. And sometimes there's a bit of magic that happens. Other times it could be just completely random, you know, like you are seeing that color everywhere. The waitress brings you a coffee on top of a yellow serviette and she put a yellow chocolate on it, and she was wearing a yellow shirt, and the yellow car drives past, and then you're like, oh, I'm seeing a lot of yellow today.
And I love that.
Then you got that option to just shine that light of yellow, or delve into entertaining the what do we think about yellow, or delve into how do we feel about yellow, or what's physically going on in my body that could need some attention around the stomach area. And so the more you learn, the more you get to go, right, okay, so I don't feel it's physical, it could be emotional, and it could be a mental thought. And then we've got options to be able to shift with those things. So
I like how you mention yellow, because my podcast art is yellow, and yellow to me, like, as you know, we probably know, our listeners may not, is the solar plexus and one of the chakras, and it just, yeah, it's just a color that is, I don't know, bright and pleasant.
yeah.
And something that I thought, oh, I'll just do yellow. I like yellow. It just popped for me at the time. And yeah.
It suits your whole foods as well, because yellow is directly related to the stomach and the stomach meridian, and, you know, making sure we take in thoughts that we can assimilate or digest, you know, feelings that we're able to digest rather than get fearful about how we feel. And also making sure foods, you know, toxins show up as a yellow. You know, if you take something that's not good for you, you're likely to vomit. But we've had very cleverly hidden toxins go into the foods, haven't we? Like hidden in numbers. And so it's like, it's a perfect color for you to make that connection, so that whenever you're wondering, you know, it can bring closer to clarity, mental clarity, detoxing of the body as we move towards those energies. So it's better than being stuck there going, oh, I feel afraid. We can go, right, I feel afraid, but let me have a look at what can I digest? What am I needing to vomit away? You know,
well, that's a good
person.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could well be.
It's true, isn't it? Like that. Okay, so that was a little bit funny that it is that it sort of, we had a few issues with yellow there. Something must have been a little congested with the light. But basically, effectively, that is how the Bema works, and I'll just got it. How the Bema works and how it is that we can interact with color and light, and how it is that we can find a little bit more joy interrupting some of those concepts of clarity, or interrupting some of those congested areas with a bit of light and keeping things flowing. So, and I guess with everything in the Aurasoma system, it's really about like how that feels for you, and how, if you find something soothing, then that's great. And if you find something disturbing, then there's something to be learned from that, or we go to a color that is supportive and soothing. So, you know, both are very clear and true pathways, and this is a super little tool to help bring color and consciousness a little bit more into everyone's life.
And I love it. I love that you spoke about yellow, and my podcast cover art's yellow, and I just love that. I didn't even know that. It just popped for me at the time, and so now I've got more of an insight into it. So I absolutely love it. So Deb, tell the listeners and viewers again, where can they find you to get some beautiful color therapy?
So I'm in Chermside West, and I have a website called indelight.com.au where people can book individual treatments. And coming up, there will be an app that I'm producing. And what I hope to do is sell that with a little Pomanda presentation set. So you've got like all 17 colours and a little bit of the knowledge there to help start lubricate the inner wheels of your own consciousness. Or have a look at asiact.org, to any practitioner that's in the area. Oh, actually, that's for Aurasoma. For the Bema Light Pen, I don't think there are many of us in Australia. So if it is that there will be some one-day courses eventually coming up on self-care and healthcare. So I'll just start to sort of encourage that as people get to connect. So basically for Bema, indelight.com.au. For Aurasoma, also Indelight or As I Act, and just get a little bit of light into you, whichever way you can.
Thanks, Deb. And I will, for everybody listening and watching out there, everything will be in the show notes that Deb's mentioned as well. So thank you again, Deb. It was a delight to speak to you about colour.
Thank you for holding the space for loving colour.
Oh, it's just pure magic. Okay, thank you, Deb. Bye.